It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. This is the C block. C is in Charlie, and today's date is March 17th. It is St. Patrick's Day. And you know what we forgot to talk about on Monday, John?
What's that? You mean on Friday?
Excuse me, on Friday. Two things. It was Pi Day, 3.14, and it was also STL Day, 314. So we forgot to talk about those two things. Okay.
Oh, wow, boy. Listeners really missed out on our hot takes about St. Louis half-donkey businesses, right?
Okay, John. Hold on a minute.
Come drink our local coffee. Come drink our local coffee. It's terrible. And we actually just buy it at Walmart and brew it and then upcharge you. But come sit on our uncomfortable stools and eat an $8 croissant.
Listen to John. Okay, hold on a minute. I'm going to play this. It's got a commercial. Hold it. We got to go through the commercial. Skip commercial. Okay, here we go.
Introducing new improved Tidy Bowl. Now, we didn't dare change Tidy Bowl's extra strength formula with chlorine. It still helps clean and deodorize your bowl automatically every time you flush. It still leaves the water a clear, fresh blue, and it's still harmless to skin, pets, and septic tanks. Introducing Tidy Bowl's new plastic bottle. It was the only way to improve it. Oh, by the way, how do you like the new Vogue?
So that's the Tidy Bowl commercial. And the guy is not in the toilet bowl, but he's in the water tank behind the toilet bowl. And he goes off in a boat.
Remarkable. And what year would you put that at, Brad?
That was, according to the YouTube, it says 1971. So I love the Tidy Bowl, man.
Oh, yeah. See, I was far from being born then.
Okay, here's a perfect example. My kids are embarrassed about what I do, okay? Because my mother, who I've told the story before, never once listened to me on the radio, ever, because she hated the radio, okay? Can you imagine being the son and or daughter of the guy who was the Tidy Bowl man? I mean, yeah, my dad's he's an actor, and the only thing I get is he's the Tidy Bowl man. I bet
they would think it was pretty cool. You know, kids love toilet humor. They're like the Brad Hildebrands of the world. You know?
See, it's funny you should mention that. If my dad was the Tidy Bowl man, I couldn't tell enough people about it. You know, my dad's the Tidy Bowl man. You know,
of course.
My dad does TV commercials. Okay, two things to talk about for the remainder of the show, maybe even three. Gene Simmons. Okay, Gene Simmons. This guy I heard him on Adam Carolla's podcast. He's so interesting. The latest news is Gene Simmons of KISS, if you know what we're talking about. He's going on Mr. Tongue. He's going on a concert tour, and he has a special offer. He has a special offer that he will allow you to be on his road crew for a day. You will actually be a roadie with him, and you will have dinner with him before his concert in whatever city this is in. But there's a catch. You know what the catch is, John?
What's the catch?
You have to pay him $13,000.
Yeah, and probably you give up all, like, he's gonna capture it for content. You have to give him quotes about how it's an honor of a lifetime, and then they'll use that down the road to sell future opportunities that will cost $15,000, and then the next tour will cost $17,000, and on and on. Okay,
you're not a Gene Simmons, you're not a KISS guy, are you?
No, I wouldn't do a roadie job for anybody.
There's nobody, if there's not one single person, that if someone called you up and say, hey, John, here's the deal. You can be a roadie for me for a day, and you got to pay me $13,000, but you can have dinner with me. There's nobody you do that with?
That I would pay for, no.
Okay.
And would I volunteer to do it? Like, depending on where Dua Lipa is in her cycle, maybe. But I'm not, like, my favorite band is Oasis. I would never be a roadie for, like, I'm not gonna exert. I'd love to go meet them, but I'm not gonna, like, be a roadie for them.
Okay, now, do you think that people will pay this money to be a roadie for the day with Gene Simmons?
Of course they are. You kidding me? There's some middle-aged guy in a XXX t-shirt with a giant paunch who can't see when he's trying to aim and use the urinal, who would give up $20,000. He would cash out his 401k to go be a roadie for Gene Simmons because he thinks it's going to impress Gene, who he never got a date with in high school.
Gene is in J-E-A-N? J-E-A-N?
Yeah, J-E-A-N. Being with G-E-N-E will improve his relationship with J-E-A-N. Unfortunately, because he wasn't a breeder, he never got to pass down his G-E-N-E-S. You see what I'm saying, Brad?
It's funny you should mention that word Gene, because I had a huge crush on a girl named Jean who lived one street over from me when I was growing up. And one day she showed
But she had the gift of sight and she rejected you?
Yes.
Okay. Usually you hung out, thanks to your mom's relationship with people at Bell Fountain Habilitation Center, you did get access to a lot of girls with disabilities, but when it came to the able-bodied and those of sound mind, it was a little harder, right?
Yeah, thanks, John. I appreciate that. Okay. Voice of America. Have you heard this story? This wasn't on the John.
Oh, people are real mad because we're silencing the progressive voices.
Now, here's what's interesting, okay? A friend of mine, who shall remain nameless because this person does not want to be associated with me publicly or privately, who has an interesting past. This person's father used to be a manager of manufacturing plants, and this person grew up living in several foreign countries where her father was hired by, and these were all Fortune 100 companies, and they had plants all over the world, and he would be in this country for a couple of years, in this country for a couple of years, managing these manufacturing plants. And obviously, as her father, she would tag along with him, and her father and mother both moved to these countries. And when this happened, she sent me an interesting text talking about the fact that she was upset about this because as a young girl, when she was in these foreign countries, the only thing they had to find out about America was listening on the shortwave radio to Voice of America. And she told me
that's nice.
Another interesting anecdote that her father was friends with the guy who ran the local hotel in one country they're in, and he would pay the guy at the hotel to have his housekeepers pick up the American newspapers that the airline pilots and the stewardesses left behind in their rooms, because that's how they found out about news in America. They would get...
Oh, that's an good old-timey story.
Right. And my response to her was, obviously that was before the internet, because with Voice of America, with the internet right now, the Voice of America is sort of antiquated, isn't it? But I shouldn't say that, because there's still areas that don't get internet. There's still areas that people would listen to shortwave radio and listen to Voice of America. But, I have to be honest with you. First off, I was somewhat confused about this because, remember, I don't know if you remember this story or not, guess who was going to be the head of Voice of America as per Trump? Do you remember this story?
Yeah, it was somebody, it was who, and we're not going to call him Brad, but Mark McCloskey was complaining about the fact that some woman got that position. Who is that?
Carrie Lake, the lady who ran
Carrie Lake, that's right, yeah.
She was the ex-news person in Phoenix, and she ran for governor in Arizona, and then she ran for U.S. senator in Arizona. Okay, Carrie Lake was going to run VOA. Okay, as the story goes, when the people showed up for work on Saturday morning, they were locked out, and they got emails essentially saying, guess what, you don't have a job anymore. Now, what does John think about this?
I think that, first of all, I think they should cut Voice of America. I think it's completely antiquated. I think it's not 1970. And your friend's anecdote was really cute. And it's like hearing people talk about typewriter ribbon replacement people. Like, oh no, the typewriter shop went out of business. What a shame. Learn to code and move on. Secondly, in areas of the country or the world in which they did rely on Voice of America, I think we should all give them a car that has AM radio. Because AM radio is totally relevant, and we should force car makers to put an old-timey radio band that nobody listens to anymore in their car. So just give everybody a car with AM radio, and everybody will be happy.
John, you beat up on poor old crap. I mean, crap and all these other AM stations. If I told you I was trying to buy another radio station, AM station, I didn't tell you about this, did I?
No, but I believe it, because we're getting to be tax time, and you need even more money-losing opportunities to write off on your taxes, Brad.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. No, the Voice of America thing is interesting because you mentioned something sort of interesting, is that Voice of America has sort of taken the NPR bent. Would that be appropriate to say, John?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's known as being pretty progressive, right?
Well, I mean, you're the guy that knows this stuff. I mean, to me, but I guess the thing that shocked me about it was when they said, take a guess, and it was interesting because this came up in conversation over the weekend. Guess how many people are employed by, first off, I'm going to say NPR. Guess how many people are employed by National Public Radio?
I would guess 1,000.
2,300.
Wow.
2,300.
And that's just national NPR. That's not local affiliate.
Yes, that's not the local.
Wow, that's
affiliates.
amazing.
That's nationally. Okay. Guess how many people are employed by Voice of America?
500.
1,300 people. Now,
Holy cow.
now the other thing about this is what's sort of interesting to me is here we go again with another government agency that I never knew existed. Do you know the name of this government? It's like the United States, blah, 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 blah. And there's another division which they merged with Trump, with Trump is merged called the United States Digital Division. Did you know any of this crazy stuff?
No, I didn't know any of this stuff. That sounds like a great place to get some contracts, though.
Okay, how did I know about this? Because I listened to NPR on Saturday, and they had one current employee of this organization and one former employee of Voice of America complaining about, guess who? Two people. Name two people.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, boy, the paradox of that. You know?
Well, see, the interesting part of this was this guy describes that he works for. And I'm driving along, so I can't take notes. He says he works for the United States Digital Division or something like that. I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what that is. And they said that got merged into Doge. And he said they had a meeting where they all got together, and Elon Musk was there, and he told them these are the new rules, and blah, 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 blah. And of course, NPR had him on their station. They were interviewing him on the network, and they said they're not using his real name, but they didn't change his voice. I'm going like, okay, how long does it take?
That won't take long, yeah.
How long will it take till everybody knows exactly who that was? Okay, that's number one. Then, have you ever listened to the New Yorker Hour on NPR?
No.
Oh, my God. They had the guy he's some doctor, and he's got some weird name. I can't remember his name. And he's going off on the USAID thing. And he's telling all these horrendous stories about how USAID is this wonderful organization that does tremendous work. And there's going to be, when in his voice, you could almost tell when he's being interviewed, there's tears running down his face.
Oh, that's a shame. Was he gay or was he straight?
I don't know.
Okay.
They didn't talk about it.
I'm guessing he doesn't play for our team.
Well, hold on a minute now. I shouldn't say that. At NPR, they always say, here's how it starts out. This is Jim. Jim has this wonderful job, but then a terrible thing happened to Jim. And by the way, Jim, am I?
Yeah, that's true. They set it up just like that.
Right. And by the way, Jim is biracial. He's gay. He's an amputee. He only has one eye. He has 3 toes on his left foot, and he's also a victim of scorn at his school because of the fact his nose is on upside down. But besides that, Jim is a normal guy. Am I doing the NPR thing or what?
Yeah, it's very good. Your voice is a little too masculine and loud, but other than that, it's spot on, Brett.
So this dude's complaining that he's talking about literally millions of people around the world are going to die because of USAID. And being, axed. And I'm going like,
yeah, that's a shame, Brad. Don't you have any empathy for them?
John.
I heard that after storms, you don't even go cut up wood and stack it in a pile of lumber to rot slowly that nobody will ever touch again.
Matter of fact, on Saturday, I used my own chainsaw to chainsaw fallen trees at my own transmitter site. So I had to do stuff at my transmitter site to get back on the air there. But that's a whole nother story. Okay, so the Voice of America thing and the USAID thing, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I understand the United States is this wonderful country, and we do help. We always talk about the fact that there's a hurricane in Bimini or whatever the heck it is, or there's a volcano eruption in Smokalaplunk or whatever the country is or something like that, that our volunteers go. I get it. And we are a wonderful country because we do help out other people. But there comes a point when you hear about Voice of America and it's got 1,300 employees. And I'm going like, okay, there's 1,300 people that work for Voice of America? It's like I talk about all the time at the end of any show, a show that runs on NPR, there's only one time a week. At the end of the show, they give, and here's our staff. And it goes on for 3 minutes. They must lift 42 people. Here's so-and-so is our digital music director. Here's so-and-so, our digital toenail director. Here's so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. I'm going like, okay, an hour show, and they've got a staff of 40? I mean, in the radio business, you've got top-rated talk shows that run 5 days a week, and they have a staff of 5? Why does NPR need a staff of 40 to do one stinking show a week? You know what I'm saying, John?
Well, in their defense, if you watch Cletus McFarlane, I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy, but if you watch any of his shows on YouTube, when he's done at the end of the show, he lists every member of the pit crew. So what I think is actually, it's the tail wagging the dog. I think NPR is actually following in the footsteps of Cletus McFarlane.
You always make fun of me with Cletus.
No, I think he's great. I think you should spend more time watching Cletus McFarlane.
Cletus McFarlane is now a multimillionaire, which is sort of interesting, but that's a whole nother story. And his latest thing, he's building a house on an airstrip that he bought in Florida, and he's building his house. And his house is, guess what? This is interesting because I saw a video over the weekend. I watched this. You think I'm nuts for watching these videos. You know how he's making his house?
How's that?
Reinforced concrete. He's literally, they're doing the walls and everything with rebar, steel rebar, reinforced concrete walls, reinforced concrete floors, the whole bit. He's going to have a hurricane because this is in Bradenton, Florida. I don't know what county that's in.
Yeah. So, and that's specifically so that it can stand up during hurricanes.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great idea. And did you hear he also announced that he's moving in the port in Bradenton with Bob Onder? Because Onder's living on a boat in Bradenton, too. Yeah, he was a big Pittsburgh Pirates fan growing up, and they used to have spring training down in Bradenton. So Onder's going to fly. Onder's a pilot, so he can fly to Florida, watch a little spring training, and then go right to the boat in D.C. He's a boat guy now.
John, I'm going to do my research. I'm going to find out where Bob Onder's boat is in D.C. I'm going to find this out. And
that's good. And then I hope Bob gets a restraining order on you and says there's a crazy guy living in a town that he calls Crapville. And we saw him with a chainsaw during the storms. Nobody knew what he was doing, but he kept flipping out about UBMs and how the helium tank was going to explode in a storm and all this stuff.
And I got a big gash in my arm, but I can't figure out how he did it because my shirt's not cut. And I'm thinking to myself, how did I cut? I've got like a 2-inch gash in my arm. And I'm thinking to myself, how did I do that and not, now how did I notice I wasn't bleeding? And how did I do it and not cut my shirt? John, how is that possible? You know who knows?
Here's the thing. You've been tempting fate. And you've gone to North County after dark so many times to buy bladed lawnmowers that it was a matter of time till you woke up with a giant gash on your arm. We just didn't think it would be after doing work at the Transmit.
Do you know who would be able to tell me how I got that gash in my arm?
Yeah, Dr. Bob Onder.
Exactly, Bob Onder.
Yeah, but he's on a boat right now, Brad. So
right.
And they don't have great Wi-Fi, so you might need to wait until you can catch him on Skype.
John, thanks again for being so complimentary of me. I live this show, just so you can give me compliments. I'm telling you.
What you don't know is it's 6:54 before we start talking. I flip a coin and I say, am I going to be a complete Richard today, or am I going to be a normal human being? And some days, Brad, you just get the bad side of the coin.
Man, you lose some, you win some, but the most important thing in life is to dress out for every game. Okay, say goodbye, John.
See you tomorrow, Brad.